In a world devastated by an unknowable force called the Miasma, one young hero needs to overcome himself to find his own destiny. My name is Lile. Welcome to Lile's Indie Corner. Let's charge up our power gloves in Miasma Chronicles. Miasma Chronicles is a tactical turn-based RPG with exploration elements and was released on May 23, 2023. Developed by the Bearded Ladies and published by 505 Games, it uses stealth mechanics to stir the gameplay pot. Join Elvis and Diggs on their journey towards a great adventure. First up, this game is gorgeous, especially the environments. You'll know by now I'm an absolute sci-fi girl, and this game gave me all the right vibes, even if the setting is more apocalyptic than sci-fi. But the swirling miasma and the torn down buildings and streets look so incredibly cool that I was astounded by every new location and wandered around gobsmacked by the details. From the very first second when you see that giant miasma wall, I was in awe. There are so many dope visuals, and since it's from an almost top-down perspective, you really get to see the effort the Bearded Ladies put into the design of the game. It's all rather gloomy, since these characters do live in a destroyed world that they had to learn to make their own. And there's always a chance that what's built anew will be torn down again by a miasma storm. I love how so much of the backstory of what happened to our dear Earth is told through environmental storytelling instead of in-game lore. Since these people have lost the connection to the age that came before them, all they have are fragments of knowledge and the little bit of infrastructure that was left behind. But you, as the player, have a better idea, of course, and Miasma Chronicles uses that meta layer in very fun ways. My personal favorite, for example, was this area that was once an amusement park, but is now just a bog that's dangerous to traverse. It's called Gator Zone, and all these alligator sculptures and animatronics are now mixed in with real wildlife, and it makes for a fun exploration experience. Especially since there were rarely any graphical hiccups. Even when the screen was filled by miasma powers or explosions, I had barely any frame rate drops or stutters. You also do get the occasional cutscene in which you can really see the characters and their designs, and those are amazing too. There aren't super many, but every time you get something new and exciting, because the whole design is very out there. The human characters are all pretty boring compared to their robot counterparts or even some NPCs like the mayor, who's just a head in a jar. The enemies are the real highlight though. Very creative and very unique. I never knew what the game was gonna throw at me next. When it comes to both sound design and music in Miasma Chronicles, I don't have that much to say, which isn't a bad thing. I'm always of the opinion that if sound design is done right, it shouldn't draw your attention. And that's the case here. Everything just fits perfectly, so you don't even notice it. And that's saying something in this alien world where you have particle storms, frog monsters, and robot enemies. But everything from the guns, which have a nice oomph to them, to the enemy screams, feels like a cohesive whole that immerses you into the world. Even though it's unfamiliar to you, the soundscape makes it very approachable. And the miasma powers have just the right amount of auditory feedback. They feel so powerful, not only in their visual design, but you get an earful of superpowers too, and I love that stuff. The music is very understated, it serves its purpose. Sadly, I have to say it again, but sci-fi soundtracks can often be the most boring. You have your typical electronic tracks and the epic music that swells at just the right moment, but nothing that stood out to me. It's serviceable for sure, and it's not bad at all. It's just not special. Shout out to my trusted editor, the Potato Witch. Now we get to the real meat of the game. Gameplay is the most important aspect here in my opinion. Let's start with the exploration, which is usually where I have the most fun, and Miasma Chronicles does not disappoint. As I said before, the graphics are gorgeous, so it's such a pleasure to run around and really search every nook and cranny, especially since the environmental storytelling is so good. There was always something to find that fleshed out the world more, be it historical logs or little neon signs that told you what a place once was. items. And that's the stuff I live for. Unfortunately, when it comes to loot, the game is not as forthcoming as with its history. My first and biggest critique of the game is its economy. It just feels broken. Like in every good RPG, you run around collecting money. Plastic is the currency of choice in Miasma Chronicles, but the amounts you find are so minuscule compared to what things cost that you can pretty much never buy anything truly useful. Even if you sell what you find and don't need, you will still come up short because selling prices are so ridiculously low without any way to increase them. This is my biggest gripe with the game because it felt like it was actually trying to keep me from feeling cool. And at the end of an RPG that I play for 26 hours, I want to feel cool. I want to be able to buy or find the best gear and shred into my enemies. I don't need to be overpowered, but please just let me feel powerful. I died so many times because I could only afford subpar gear that every fight felt like a waste of my very precious resources. And for the ending fight, I had to turn down the difficulty since I just couldn't beat the game with the gear I had, even though I had sold all my consumables to try and buy at least one more useful gun. That just took the fun right out of me. Which is such a shame because I really enjoyed the combat and especially the stealth aspect of it. In almost every area, you will find one or more groups of enemies, and attacking them up front will certainly lead to death. You need to pick off stragglers to reduce the amount of enemies you will be fighting. So you need to stealth around, find weaker enemies you can kill in one shot, and get rid of them. Some of them you need to lure away from a group so they don't get alerted. Others will be kind and just step away of their own accord so you can unleash your inner murder hobo on them. But of course, there are some instances in which you aren't allowed to do the stealth thing first, where you're ambushed or the game just calls for a straight up fight. The last boss being one of them, which added to my frustration with the game. There's so much emphasis on the stealth mechanic, and in the most important fight, that option is completely taken away from me. Meh, I say. Then there's also the issue of healing. The only way to heal in-game is A, using a healing item which you do not find frequently and that are ridiculously expensive, or B, when you level up. There is no other way. No resting option, no out-of-combat healer. That's baffling to me. A similar issue occurs with the skills you can use in combat. As mentioned, this is a turn-based tactical RPG, so you're moving on a grid, firing shots at enemies when it's your turn, and getting shot at when it's their turn. So polite of us all. And when you earn XP and level up, you can unlock combat skills. Every character has their own unique little skill tree, which I absolutely love. So all have their strengths and weaknesses and are better with one weapon or the other. Thing is though, some skills have a cooldown, which is not uncommon for these types of games, and rule of thumb is, the more powerful the skill, the longer the cooldown. But in Miasma Chronicles, the cooldowns do not reset after a fight. You carry them over into the next one, meaning you don't have your probably most effective skills at the ready at the start of the next fight in an area, which is arguably the most crucial time when you need them, since you still have so many enemies around. Another thing that's baffling to me. And all of this added to my feelings of frustration. I just wanted to be a cool character that wields unimaginable power. Why not let me enjoy it, the bearded ladies? What have I ever done to you? Despite all of it though, I actually liked playing the game. Despite my many deaths and points of contempt, I still had a fun time murdering my way through frog people and robots. The stealth mechanic in particular was a real highlight for me. Of course you need to bring some patience to the table, but I thought it was something different for a genre that I liked. And the exploration was really great. Let's get one thing out of the way. You don't play Miasma Chronicles for the story. The basic setup is Elvis and his brother / best friend Diggs need to break through this miasma wall. Their mama told them that if Elvis was strong enough, he could finally follow her through the wall and find his destiny. It's a very cliche coming-of-age story mixed with the Chosen One saga that we have all seen done better. And I don't think the devs would necessarily disagree with me here. The characters don't have much depth, and I don't think they are supposed to. And I feel rather confident in saying that because the whole tone of the game seems very purposefully cheeky and juvenile. From the very first second when you hear the characters talk, you know what you're in for.
We gotta deal with these assholes.
We don't fight anything we don't understand. We're going home.
Hey, you are aware the only way home is through them?
Shit.
Hey, get tiger tough, little brother. We about to throw down.
And yes, it stays that way throughout the entire game. The voice acting and the writing seem like the bearded ladies knew exactly what they were doing.
That's a collector ship. It's full of collectors.
They didn't want to create the next Shakespearean tragedy. They just wanted to have a bit of fun. And I have to admit it took me a bit to settle into that mindset. You all know that story is usually very important to me. It might actually be the most important thing to me on which I judge games. And my brain needed some readjustment. But once I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take this for what it is, it was completely fine. Again, you don't play this game for its story but for the gameplay, and that's totally valid. Not every game needs to reinvent the wheel when it comes to storytelling. And it wasn't completely devoid of fun or even some tension, but the story is mostly just there to get you from one point on the map to the next, and to show you more of its cool world. And that aspect I truly loved. The whole meta story of our Earth being destroyed and most knowledge of it lost was so fun. Every time the characters come into contact with an old world concept, like airports for example, and are baffled about their findings or just try to imagine what such a place could have been used for, I was delighted, and those were the moments that got some good chuckles out of me. The world building and how they wove that into the exploration was really the best thing for me. But yeah, the main cast is always on the verge of being cringe.
I don't age. I don't get old.
Okay. How old are you?
Old.
The villains are over the top cartoonish.
What is our priority?
And the voice acting is what it is. And again, I don't want to throw shade. I think everyone involved knew what they were doing and were just having fun with it. So all in all, I enjoyed playing Miasma Chronicles, but also have some frustrating grievances. There definitely are things I would like them to do differently. Please next time just let me be powerful! But otherwise it was fun and not too long. If you're looking for something else, why not check out my review of Deliver Us the Moon? A very different sci-fi story. See you next time!